You brought a lawsuit against a careless doctor, or maybe a careless driver, or maybe a property owner. And now, during the course of your pretrial questioning known as a deposition, you are asked a question that you simply do not want to answer. Can you turn around and say, "I'm not answering that question"? Would you like to know the answer? Come join me for a walk as I walk the dogs. Hi Bentley, hi Daisy. Hi guys. Come on, let's go walk. Come join me for a walk as I walk the dogs, as I share with you the answer to that question. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. Okay, so now let's say you brought a lawsuit against a careless doctor. And during the course of your lawsuit, your attorney tells you that you will have to answer questions in a pretrial process known as a deposition. Lawyers also call it an examination before trial. Now, this is a pretrial question and answer session which in pre-COVID times would typically take place in our office, in our attorney's office, in your attorney's office. Nowadays, it typically takes place on a Zoom video call where your attorney is on the call, the defense attorneys are on the call, and a court stenographer is on the call to record all of the questions you are asked and all of your answers. Did you know that your answers represent your sworn testimony? And it carries the same exact weight as if you are testifying in court, at trial, in front of a judge and in front of a jury. So now you are being questioned and you're going to be there for an entire day, hours and hours of questioning, hundreds if not thousands of questions you are going to have to answer. Questions about what kind of medical care and treatment you had in the past, questions about what type of medical history you had, questions about what problems you have now as a result of the injuries that you suffered and those things that you can and can no longer do. One of the defense attorneys asks you a very straightforward question. Hey, Mr. Jones, have you ever declared bankruptcy before? And you turn around and say, I'm not answering that question. Do you have to answer it? Or maybe he asks a question such as, Mr. Jones, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Or he might ask a question that says, Mr. Jones, how many times do you beat your wife each night? What? What kind of question is that? So let's go back to the two other questions. Questions about whether you were ever convicted or questions about whether you have ever declared bankruptcy. You, for whatever reason, don't want to answer that question or those questions. You feel this is personal. You feel that they're not entitled to know those details of your life. You think that this stranger, this defense attorney who's now on a Zoom video call with you, asking you personal questions, maybe the defense attorney turns around and asks you about your intimate life, your intimate sex life with your spouse. And you're saying, I'm not answering that question. And you're thinking to yourself, there is no possible way you're going to answer that question, or the question about bankruptcy, or the question about conviction, regardless of what impact it has on your case. Well, let me share something very important that I think will open your eyes. It is critical to understand that in this lawsuit process, you now are claiming that you suffered physical harm and injury as a result of someone's carelessness. How is the defense supposed to really know the full extent of your injuries? How can they verify that the problems you are experiencing have impacted you in any significant way? They are entitled to learn the details of your medical history. The defense is entitled to learn about all of your medical issues. They're entitled to learn about what problems you have now, what medical care and treatment you are receiving now, as well as many things that you believe are not relevant or related to the issues in the case. Your rationale for not wanting to answer those questions has to do with, okay, what does bankruptcy have to do with the issues about your doctor and whether or not he was careless? Reality is, has nothing to do with it. But there is a legal reason why they are asking you that question that in all likelihood you are not aware of. What does a conviction have to do with whether or not your doctor was careless and caused you harm and injury? The answer is nothing. But it has to do with your credibility. And you may not be aware of that. Now, if he asks a question that says, hey, how many times do you beat your wife each night? You would know that that is an outrageous question. And what your attorney should be doing if that question is raised is objecting and telling you not to answer the question. Why? Because we call that a palpably improper question, which under no circumstance should be answered. But let's get back to the question I raised in the title of this video. Do you have the ability to turn around and say, I'm not answering that question? The reality and the answer is, no, you don't. If your attorney feels that there is a legal basis, a legal reason why you should not be answering a question, he's going to speak up. He's going to immediately yell out, "Objection! Don't answer that question." That question is privileged. It calls for confidential communication between my client and me, the attorney-client privilege. And under no circumstance will I allow my client to answer that question. Or if the question is palpably improper, then the attorney would again yell out, "Objection," and say, "Don't answer that question, it's palpably improper." Now, many questions that you think are not related, you still have to answer, because this is the discovery process. This is the time in which the defense has to learn many details about you, even though they don't directly relate to the claims that you have made in this case. So, questions about whether or not you have been convicted of a crime, that they are allowed to ask, and that you have to answer. And you have to answer it truthfully. If you don't, you run the risk of destroying your credibility. Questions about bankruptcy also have to be answered. Why? Because there is law, there is case law that says if you have declared bankruptcy within a certain period of time before you started your lawsuit, you may not have been legally permitted to go ahead and bring a lawsuit on your behalf because of your pending bankruptcy. And now your attorney will have to delve into specifics concerning your bankruptcy. So getting back to the question I raised in the title of this video, do you, as the injured patient, as the injured victim, do you have the ability to turn around at your discretion and say, "Hey, I don't want to answer that question"? The answer is no. Your medical history and your life is really an open book. And the defense has an absolute right to ask questions about things in your past, about things in your history. And if your attorney believes that some of those questions are inappropriate, he's going to raise an objection and then tell you whether or not you can answer that question. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because some people who are contemplating bringing a lawsuit are worried about the type of questions they are going to be asked if they go ahead and start a lawsuit on their own behalf. They're worried about people delving into their background, and they're a private person and they don't want people poking around into their background. Well, that's a decision that you'll have to make when you decide whether or not to go ahead and actually start a lawsuit on your own behalf. You know, I realize you're likely watching this because you have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if your matter did happen in New York and you are thinking about bringing a lawsuit but haven't done so yet because you still have questions that need to be answered, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. You know, I answer questions like yours every single day and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at Oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day. Say goodbye, guys. There they are taking a nice walk. Have a great day.